A boy and his dog were stranded at sea. In this vast, endless ocean, the rescue helicopter couldn't spot a trace of them. It could only circle overhead. The boy, named Angus, woke up to find only his dog, Yellow, by his side. He pulled the sunken boat out of the water, firmly believing that his father would come to find them soon. Just a few days earlier, Angus and his father had built this boat together. His father had taught him many wilderness survival skills, like how to make fire with stones, and that if there's no food, you can eat dragonflies, ants, or worms for protein. The next day, they were heading to a winter harbor for camping. Angus's mother and little brother came to see them off. A girl even gave him a box of burnt cookies she had baked. They boarded the boat with Yellow and began their journey. His father sailed through the rough seas. The waves rocked the boat violently, making the dog terrified and restless. It was definitely not suitable weather for sailing. Angus's father tried to find a safe harbor to land, but the waves shattered the boat's glass. A massive wave capsized their boat, leaving it adrift on the ocean. Rescuers arrived quickly in a helicopter. In the endless sea, they found the overturned boat and managed to rescue Angus's father from it. But there was no sign of Angus or Yellow. Angus luckily found a box of dry matches. Among all his camping supplies, the only food left was the box of cookies the girl had given him. Both he and Yellow were hungry, but they had to ration the food carefully. To feed Yellow, Angus caught a fish in the sea. He built a fire with wood and cooked a pot of delicious fish. He first gave some to Yellow. The next day, they frantically dug in the sand to find clams for food. Angus used a fishing hook and line to stitch together makeshift shoes. He also played ball with Yellow on the beach. With the dog by his side, Angus didn't lose hope. Meanwhile, his father kept urging the rescue team to continue searching. It had now been 5 days since Angus was lost at sea. He wanted to signal for help with fire, so he broke apart the boat for dry wood. Hearing the sound of a helicopter, Angus and Yellow ran to the pile and lit it using matches. He hoped the smoke would be seen. He kept burning more wood. But by nightfall, no one had come. They couldn't stay any longer. There was no more food. He hadn't caught any fish in days. Angus wrote the direction of his departure in charcoal, hoping one day his father would find it. He and Yellow moved on, struggling through crashing waves. They were determined to find another way. Just then, a helicopter flew by. Angus ran toward it excitedly, but in a matter of seconds, it was gone. He finally broke down in tears. Yellow, sensing his sorrow, stayed by his side. Angus comforted his dog, telling him they would make it out. The next morning, Yellow found a mouse near a trap. He quickly woke Angus. Angus gently grabbed the rope and managed to trap the mouse. While carefully roasting it, the starving Yellow stared intently. Angus fed most of the meat to Yellow, only eating a small portion himself. In the vast forest, Angus couldn't find his way home, so he decided to let Yellow lead the way. Soon after, a helicopter found traces on the coast, signs that Angus had been there days ago. His father saw the message Angus had left, knowing his son would do everything to survive. His family and the search team scoured the shoreline. Angus, still lost in the forest, could find no food. He took out one last cookie, crushed it with a rock, fed a little to Yellow, and mixed the rest with wild greens in a bowl. When the cookies were gone, all he could find were worms. He mixed them together, but Yellow refused to eat the disgusting meal. Helpless, Angus took the first bite himself. He shoved a worm into his mouth and swallowed. Only then did Yellow reluctantly start eating too. They continued their journey. Angus, exhausted, couldn't keep up with Yellow. He stumbled down a slope. Yellow rushed over and licked his face. Injured on his arm and face, Angus walked to a river and spotted a lit house on a hilltop. They decided to cross the river. Yellow dragged Angus across the water on a log. They struggled toward the shore. Angus was freezing and near unconscious. He stripped his wet clothes and rested. Suddenly, he saw a large lynx in the distance. Yellow rushed to fight it off, but they were no match. Later, Angus followed Yellow to the hilltop house. But luck wasn't on their side. The house was abandoned, with nothing inside. With no food, they had to keep moving. Angus sat under a tree, exhausted. When Yellow returned with something, he had caught a rabbit. Angus stared at him in disbelief, then shared a meal with him. The next day, they moved on. Ahead was a raging river. There was no clear path forward, but they found a log bridging two cliffs. Angus decided to cross it. He crawled on the mossy wood, dangerously close to falling. He heard Yellow barking behind him. Yellow was too scared to step onto the log. Angus urged him forward, but nearly slipped himself. He tied himself and Yellow together with rope, and slowly crawled along the log. Yellow trembled in fear. Angus hugged him and promised they could do it. Just then, a helicopter flew over the forest. Angus didn't know if they saw him. He waited at the dangerous crossing for a long time. Luckily, they were spotted. The rescue team arrived, and a rescuer jumped from the helicopter. He tried to reach Angus, but it wasn't easy. Yellow barked furiously. Finally, the rescuer grabbed Angus's arm. Yellow bit the man's leg, trying to go too, but the rescuer could only hold Angus. Yellow fell from the cliff, 10 meters down. Angus screamed in despair, begging them to save his dog. Fortunately, Yellow didn't fall onto the rocks. He crawled out from the river, but the strong winds made it impossible for the helicopter to return. Yellow watched as Angus flew away, lying sadly on a rock. Angus's parents found him. They visited him in the hospital. He had only minor injuries. He begged his parents to keep searching for Yellow, but days passed with no sign, and helicopter rescues were costly. They had already looked for almost a month. Angus was devastated. Every day he waited outside for Yellow. He blew his whistle, hoping Yellow would hear, but only the echo returned. Angus stared at the empty fields, heartbroken. He remembered the day he first met Yellow in the woods. He called the dog over and decided to bring him home. His parents weren't supportive. They thought the dog had an owner, but no one claimed him. So Yellow became Angus's pet. He played baseball with the kids and brought Angus joy. Angus made him a collar and bought a whistle. Whenever Angus blew it, Yellow would respond. It became their special bond. But now, when Angus blew the whistle, Yellow was gone. His mom made a missing dog flyer and helped post it at the supermarket. They hoped someone would find Yellow. Angus even returned to the coast, where they had survived together. He blew his whistle again and again, but only the forest and ocean echoed back. Angus refused to give up. He rested for a few days and returned to school, but he missed Yellow every moment. He hoped he was still alive. One day, he blew the whistle again. Looking out over the empty field, he tried again. Just as he lowered the whistle in disappointment, he saw something. Yellow stood in the field, watching him. Angus ran toward him, but Yellow hung his head, unsure if Angus had abandoned him. As Angus ran faster, Yellow stopped in place, but then Angus hugged him tight. Yellow knew he had never been abandoned. They took Yellow home, and finally, they could live happily together again.